d'amore morirete, tutti spirito sarete. Tacete, tacete, il silenzio è sussurro di morte, tutta la vita è in esso, siate un flauto silente. Tacete, tacete, il silenzio è sussurro di morte, tutta la vita è in esso, siate un flauto silente. Morite, morite, di quest'amore morite, se d'amore morirete, tutti spirito sarete. Morite, morite, di quest'amore morite, se d'amore morirete, tutti spirito sarete. So this is a song by Maulana Rumi, and it says, you die, you die. If you die out of love, full spirit you will be. So it seems that there are more ways of dying. You may die out of love for God, full in love with Him, and then you will be light, you will be spirit, you will be love, you will be bliss, you will be samadhi, ecstasy. You will experience the most wonderful things. And if you don't die out of love for God, and you die out of love for the world, then we'll be different, of course. Because we go there where we are attached. And if you die being in love with the world and worldly things, then we go back to the world. Actually, we won't even go into the beyond. We will whirl around this world as a ghost. So, we should decide what we want. Do we want to die out of love for God or out of love for the world? It's going to be different. So I think those who are on the path, they want to die out of love for God. And that's a blessing. It's a good luck, really. It's a very good luck to die being in love with God. Being in love with our God. Because God is a personal something. He's not a God for everybody. Everybody should have his own God. God cannot be generalized. It's a personal God. And if there is a beautiful concept in Hinduism which I like, it's the concept of Ishtadeva, your own chosen divinity, which is not imposed by the religion you are born in. You must adore this founder of our religion. He is the Son of God, he is the Avatar, he is the Messiah, or he is the Prophet, whatever. You choose your own God. And normally we should be the God that we choose as a God. The person with whom we perceive God's presence. This to me is logic. I won't choose as a God somebody whom I never met, whom I don't know, with whom I had nothing to do. I choose as a God somebody that for me was very fundamental in perceiving God's presence. So when I was a boy, I became an atheist. I didn't believe in any God. I refused every God. Because the God that the religion in which I was born spoke to me, presented to me, I didn't like it. It was a cruel God that made you to be born once in this world, in any possible condition, which you don't choose. You just are born in just because of his decision. If he is all-powerful, omnipotent, omniscient, he makes you to be born in a very difficult condition, dramatic condition, in a very bad family, in a very spoiled environment, and of course, you grow up as a spoiled person. And then because of this, you are, at the end of your life, you go to hell for eternity. So I thought, this God is much worse than I am. So I don't like this God. That was the reasoning I went through, that's why I refused it. And then this God is all-powerful, is omniscient, omnipotent, he does everything. But then there is this Satan that comes into play and takes over and rules the whole world. So is this God omnipotent, all-powerful? Is he the doer of everything, or is this Satan? What is it? So to me it seems to be a crazy theological concept or doctrine. This I reasoned about when I was 14, 15 years old. So I thought, well, this God, I just don't like it. So I go through life experiencing what I feel like to experience, and then we will see how it goes. So that's why I became an atheist. And then I became a communist, a Marxist, Leninist. Because in my youth, there was this, from the 68, this 72, 73, like this, there was a big political movement in Italy, I think all over the world. So I came into this student movement, which in Milan was very strong. I was living in Milan at the time. So I lived a kind of experience of an atheist trying to improve the society. That was an ideology. Again, it was a kind of doctrine. And that's why after some time I refused it also, because I thought this is kind of like Christianity, more or less. It's a good idea, but then when you see it applied in practice, it becomes the most terrible experience. So, doctrines, ideologies, they don't work. As an idea, it may be very nice, but when you put it into practice, then it's terrible. Like religions, you see. The founder of a religion may say, give up everything, follow me, go give everything you have to the poor ones, don't take anything for the tomorrow, just what's enough for today. And then you have a Catholic Church who is such an economic power. building churches everywhere. In every town you have 2 or 3 churches. In Rome there might be 1,000 churches. They are always empty, nobody enters. So that's also a doctrine which, when you apply it in practice, what does it become? The worst scandals, they preach something, they do just the opposite. So let's be intelligent here. Let's be, analyzing things with an open mind, without conditioning. I have to believe into something. Why should I? I analyze something, and if I see that it has value, then I believe in it. Otherwise I don't. Nobody has to impose in me what I have to believe in. I choose what to believe in. If it has a logic, if it is applied in practice and it works, it brings good results. But if it brings bad results, it doesn't matter if I'm born into this, it doesn't matter if my family believes in this, my friends believe in this, I refuse it. Because it's not healthy. It's not doing good to anybody. Now I don't want to generalize. I know that everywhere there is good and bad. So, but I want to go to the root of things. That has always been my attitude. So then I understood that this communism was kind of mathematic, economy, and so I thought, no, it's not good for me. Doesn't apply to my nature. I've always been kind of an artist, of an artist mind. I was always a singer, somehow, even when I was a boy. So I had this kind of mental attitude, trend. So then I began reading about Indian philosophy, Buddhism. Somebody gave me a book on Buddhism. I began reading books on yoga. And they spoke about having an experience of your own. Do not believe about things, but experience them. And this I thought, well, this is intelligent. This is something that maybe is good. You should try. And then I always had this, since I began studying this philosophy, the idea of the living guru, it was so appealing to me. Wow, could I find a living guru who is an enlightened being and can help me and inspire me and uplift me? Well, that idea was so appealing to me, a living guru, really, right from the beginning. When I read stories like I went to this guru and my guru and things like this, I thought, wow, could I find a guru myself also? So, then at some point I went into a very deep crisis. I didn't like my life anymore, the way I was living. I wanted to change, but I was not able. I wanted to be different, but I was stuck in my habits. And also I look around at the world and the people, and I saw them to be so crazy and so ugly, everybody. So I didn't like myself, I didn't like this humanity around me, I didn't like anything. I went in a kind of despair. So how do you get out of it? When you're clouded by these thoughts and they push you down into into a condition of despair, then how do you get out of it? You don't like them, but they just crowd your mind and you feel bad, you feel depressed, you feel suffocating into them. So usually people who get into this kind of condition, they go to a psychologist, to a psychiatrist, something, to get some help. But no, I wouldn't do that. So I began thinking to myself, how do I get out of it? And it was at this time that somebody gave me a book on Buddhism, and he spoke about, law of karma, that we don't live just a lifetime, we live many lifetimes, and it's a slow evolution towards perfection, towards nirvana, towards realization, enlightenment. So this idea was appealing to me. I like it. We don't live just a lifetime. We are not just born once, and because of the condition we are born in and situations, then we are sent to hell for eternity. No, we come back again and we keep improving. Well, this seems to be logic. Seem to have a logic. So I thought, oh, that's good. So it gave me some relief. I began feeling better. But yet, from time to time, I was crowded by these heavy thoughts, and I felt suffocating in them. So once when I was crowded like this in these thoughts, I thought, well, how do I get out of it now? How am I going to solve this? So in that moment came back to my mind a sentence which I had been reading some months before in an article which spoke about yoga and meditation. And he said that life is ruled by the law of love, and love is the moving power of everything, something like this. So it came, this sentence made me feel good. So I began repeating it like a mantra, again and again and again. And as I said, I was kind of suffocating in this heavy inner condition. And at some point this stopped, and I touched something like a spring, which, zoom, projected me into a state of consciousness, which was just amazing, in which I felt so blissful, so full of peace, so full of love, and so full of truth. I felt like being face to face with God, but not a human God, I mean a God with a face, a state of consciousness which is divine. And the thing which came out the most in that experience, it was, what is the purpose of life? The purpose of life was revealed to me, it's to know truth. And the purpose of your life is to know truth. That was the most prominent element that came out from this experience. And it was like watching life for the first time with a magnifying lens, and seeing so many aspects of life which I never considered, to which I never gave any importance, but there they became the most important something. And what I believed to be important up to that point, it became totally meaningless, totally unimportant. So after this, my life changed completely. I was never the same person anymore. So a few days after this, I went into a shop in Milan and I bought some 13, 14 books on yoga, meditation, and Indian philosophy, this kind of thing. So I got so busy reading these books, and I wanted to bring back that kind of experience by any means, because that had been the most wonderful experience of my life. And of course, he stayed with me, but not with that intensity anymore. By and by, it became a memory of that experience. So I wanted to bring it back by any means, and I began doing all possible kind of practices which I read about in the books. And from time to time, I got close to that, but never the same. And I did such an intense practice. The whole of 1970, this happened in 1972. The whole of 1972, it was such an intense practice. And yeah, sometimes I got close to it, but was never the same. So springtime of 1973, I went to India because I knew that there were living gurus in India, I was very attached to the figure of Sri Aurobindo. I had been reading the Synthesis of Yoga. I like very much that master, his face and his teachings. So I decided to go to Pondicherry and see what happens. But Aurobindo was already dead. Later I understood that this master is no more. So gradually, during the trip going to India, which I said it was via land and it took a month, I had meetings with people and I was directed in some other direction. Eventually I ended up with Master Kripalu. So anyway, going back to that, this song of Rumi we were talking about. If we die out of love for God, then we go to God. If we die out of love for the world, we will go to the world. We will go back again to the world. Because as you think, so you become. And where your heart is attached to, that's where you go. So, those who come on the path and try to develop any degree of love for God and passion for transcendence and going beyond, they are so lucky. We don't know how lucky we are. But that's really the most precious thing we can do in our life. It's the most important thing that we can do, we can accomplish while living in this body, in this world. And the purpose for which we come in this body and in this world, it is to develop, while we are here in this world, this love for God and experience as much as we can contact, conscious contact with divinity, with the divine light of God. So the spiritual practice that we do is so very important. And the more we do of it, the more love and passions and attachment will develop for the divine, for our beloved, and that will be our treasure when we leave this world. Because we can take nothing from this world with us. The only thing we can take with us is the love of God which we have developed. That's for sure the thing that will go with us. So that may come in so many ways. For the good people, even those who are not very, very spiritual and very spiritually inclined, they will go definitely into a blissful state. For people who are cruel, bad people, attached so much to this world, and doing bad to others, being cruel to others, exploiting others, these people will be ghosts moving around their attachments. So we don't want to be this kind of people, because it's not good, that condition. It's being in a cage, even worse than when we are in the physical body. So we want to go freely into the light and experience this wonderful unconditional love of God, which that's what God is, unconditional love. So Rumi then says, die, die, don't be afraid of this death. From this earth, fly high up and catch hold of heaven, or the heavens. Die, die, from this flesh you die. Flesh is just a bond that keeps you here. Bondage that keeps you here. So we should not be afraid of that. Actually, when we sit in meditation, we are learning how to die. That's how Master Kripalu used to call it. And used to say it whenever we sat in meditation with him. Very often he would say this sentence, now we are sitting here to learn how to die. That's the process that we experience, the same process that we experience at the time of death. What does it happen at the time of death? All the physical functions stop. Breathing stops. And you get out of the body. what gets out of the body? Our consciousness, our soul. We may call it soul, spirit, consciousness. This gets out of the body. This doesn't die. It's not bound by the physical and mental or cerebral activities. It is totally independent. Consciousness is not a function of the brain. It's totally independent from the brain. Your brain may become rotten completely, but your consciousness will not. There are cases of people who have had such diseases that their brain was totally damaged, but they went into a coma and they experienced such a journey inside with their consciousness. So consciousness is not a function of the brain. Scientists believe this because they don't want to believe in anything beyond physical. When you die, it's over. The body dies, the brain dies, of course, it's rotten, everything gets rotten, and it's the end of it. That's totally foolish. Life, it's eternal. Never at a beginning, never will have an end. Life is always there. And life is conscious. Consciousness is life. So this life will never have an end. This consciousness will never have an end. And it's not bound by senses, the anatomy of the body, and the brain. It's totally independent. So when we sit in meditation, what do? We try to relax the body, still the mind, try to go above all these functions and experience as much as possible this process of dying. And when you go into deep samadhi, you're like that. The breathing almost stops completely, even the heart almost stops, and you are in bliss, you are in ecstasy, you are in the light, you are in the love. So this is what we do when we sit in meditation. We try to learn the process of dying while alive. Even Jesus in the Gospel says, learn to die so that you may begin to live. What does it mean? It means this. Learn the process of dying while you are alive, and you will begin to really live like an enlightened being, full of light, full of love, a very intense life, a very profound life. And then he says, die, die, before the sovereign, your beloved sovereign, you die. If you die before your sovereign, your king, then you will become a minister, a sultan. So if we are able to experience this process of dying while we are alive, then we become very special beings. We are no longer just common human beings. We may look like common human beings because we keep doing the same things anyway. Body functions go on. Sensory perception goes on. It's different, but it goes on. So from outside you seem to be not the same person as others. But you're no more the same person because your perception of reality is no more the same. You are no more the old self, you are the new self, the enlightened self. So if we die in total devotion for this, our beloved, this our God that we choose to be our God, then we become his ministers, his sultans. And we become of help for other people also. Because that's a process of spiritual growth. At the beginning we work on it for ourselves. But later on, if we really improve in it, and if we become really expert in it, then the divine power will put us into situations by which we be, by any means, compelled to help other people. It's normal. You're a boy, you grow up, you become a man, get married, have children. Before you were a boy, your parents were taking care of you, giving you what you needed. Now you become a man, you have children, you take care of them. So if we become real spiritual men, then God will use us to inspire others, to help others, because that's the process. You can't keep anything for yourself. Nothing belongs to us. Whatever is given to us is to be used. To be used for the betterment of humanity. So that's the process. We grow, we become real human beings, and then we become beings that help other beings. And that's the ideal of life. We are here for this. To grow, become real human beings, and then help others. But we can help also in the process. How do we do it? We associate with the Master. We are not yet a Master, but we associate with the Master. And what should we do? We should have the Master in his work. What have I done in my life? I associated first with Master Kirpal, then he died, and then I associated with Santa Jaip Singh. What I have done in those 25 years, I dedicated my whole life to the service of my Master. He told me to create an ashram for him to give programs when he gave to Italy, and to have programs among ourselves. So I did it. I'm living here for how many years now? 43, 44, I don't know. And my whole life has been dedicated to this. So I didn't wait to become a Master to do service. I did it just serving my Master. Because I felt and I realized that that was the purpose of life. That's what came to me in that first experience I had in 1972. The purpose of your life is for service. Realizing truth and give it out. So sometimes people may ask me, how come you become a Master? I didn't become a Master, I've been made. Situation and experiences have been pushed me into this direction. That very first experience I had in 1972 revealed to me this fact, that that was my destiny. Even before I met Master Kirpal. And the very first meditation I had with Master Kirpal, again this thing came back so strong. And I thought, no, please, leave me alone. No. Leave me alone with this. This is madness, I thought. It was madness 1 year ago, it's madness now. But then, you may refuse something, but if it's your destiny, you'll be pushed into it. Things will happen that will compel you to do it. So then Rumi says, get out, from this cloud, get out. Once you get out of it, you will become resplendent moon. So, if you get out of the cloud of this mind and of this limited person that we think we are, that clouds our consciousness and make us believe that we are just nothing, an individual I. But we are not an individual I. We are universal I. We are God Himself. And it's no exaggeration. What is God? God is the sum up of all the living beings. We are all part of Him. And He is us. So if we get out of this wrong idea of being a limited I, an individual I, then we become an universal I. And that's wonderful. Then we become like the moon, when it gets out of the clouds, becomes shining. Like that. And it's beautiful. I mean, it gives really value to life. It makes it precious. It's a wonderful thing to go through life with another level of consciousness, relating to life in a different way, with awareness of what it's all about. And with a purpose, because people are purposeless. They have no purpose. They just eat, go to toilet, and go to work, and buy food, and then eat it, and go to toilet. That's it. For most of the people, that's life. So anyway, Rumi then ends this beautiful poem by saying, "Be silent, be silent. Silence is tacete, tacete, il silenzio è il sussurro di morte." You be silent, be silent. Silence is the whisper of death. The whole of life is in it. Be a silent flute. Sometimes I have to sing things in order to remember them. So be silent, be silent. Silence is the whisper of death. Be a silent flute. Flute is very beautiful sound, but silence is even better. So words spoken in praise of God and words of wisdom are very beautiful, but silence is even more beautiful. When we go deep into silence, then this silence becomes verbal, used to say Master Kripal, and reveals to us so many things. So let's make our life wonderful. Let's make our life special. Let's not be happy with just a common, ordinary life. It's not why we came here. It's not the purpose of life. We are here to become gods. All of us. So let's try it. Maybe we won't succeed fully, but we get close to it. It's a way that we have to cover, sooner or later. So the more we cover in this very lifetime of this way, of this path to God, the better it is for us. And the higher we will go when we leave this world. Because there are so many layers up there. And you can stay in one layer, second, third, fourth, sixth, seventh. And the higher you go, the more blissful you will be. So we thank Rumi for this very beautiful poem and for the very deep teachings that contains, and for this satsang that has been inspired by this poem. And to our Sadgurus for inspiring it. Sanji used to say, now it's for you to live up to it. It's for us to live up to it.